DNA sequencing pioneer Jonathan Rothberg has founded numerous biotechnology companies, including CuraGen, 454 Life Sciences, Ion Torrent, and Quantum SI. GenomeWeb editor Kelsey Ketchum spoke with him about the future of sequencing and about the role artificial intelligence will play.
So the first question I have for you is, in your view, what have been the most notable developments in genomics over the past 25 years? What sticks out to you?
Obviously, the first is high throughput DNA sequencing and the ability to scale that technology to allow not only genes to be sequenced, but genomes to be sequenced, both human and animal.
Since you brought up sequencing, where, in your view, do you see the sequencing space going in the short term and kind of in the long term? What is ahead for next generation sequencing?
Sequencing has two components. One is gathering the data, and that's scaled at what looked like faster than Moore's law because we were basically catching up to the electronics industry. And the second component was the computer science that allowed the analysis of that data. And so I see two major shifts. One is going from standard computer algorithms to more of these AI algorithms that can take large amounts of genomic data and for the first time not collapse from that data and allow us to extract not just understanding of single diseases, but complex diseases. In terms of where it's going, I see the development of that AI accelerating. And in the same way that we had next-gen DNA sequencing go from fragments of genes to parts of genomes to whole genomes, I see a parallel development in protein sequencing. And while DNA might tell you your fate, it's the proteins that tell you how you're doing today and maybe in the short term. So in terms of major advancements, it's the AI added to the massive amount of genomic information, and it's the ability to sequence proteins and use this advanced AI to have both DNA information, and by DNA sequencing, I include RNA sequencing, the expression of the genes, and the proteins. So for the first time, I see both the capability to get the data, which has been accelerating, and the computational tools being developed to allow us to integrate that DNA data, that RNA data, and that protein or proteomic data.
What do you think is required right now from sequencing technology to kind of continue to move the field forward?
Well, we're going to continue on both curves in terms of cost, both the DNA sequencing and the protein sequencing. Uh, and I think we're going to have the exact same parallel on the DNA sequencing, where people put more and more information on that single chip. So instead of getting amplicons or partial genomes, they got full genomes. And I see the exact same thing happening on the protein side, where instead of sequencing, as I mentioned, a handful of proteins, you see many. And I think that just goes back to Moore's law with getting more on that single substrate or single glass slide or single semiconductor chip. So I see just scaling happening and probably more transition of the technologies that we're seeing right now. They call them large language models. You see them in ChatGPT. There's been a series of these models that instead of digesting text are digesting DNA information, and they'll also be digesting protein information. And I think that's just a matter of iterating those technologies, taking the best of what we learned from the large language model people on text and transitioning it to genome information and proteome information.
In your view, what are the biggest unmet needs that the genomics community should be looking to address? What are we missing or not addressing right now that could be in the future?
It's probably the sharing of data, because what we've learned is these new algorithms get better and better with more data. And right now, even though there's a lot of public DNA sequencing, most companies don't share information on expression or proteins. And to really do well, we have to have more data sharing. And of course, our public funding agencies can continue to enforce rules on data sharing. And they've done a very good job on that, but they'll have to stay diligent. And so we want more information that we can put together from across academic and industrial sources. So I think more data sharing. The algorithms can finally handle it.
What big developments do you foresee happening in the future in genomics? Whether that's sequencing or whether that's something else, is there anything that you're looking towards or that you're expecting for the future?
Yeah. Recently, people at ARC and other institutions that share data have made and trained these chat GPT like programs with raw genomic data. And that's just starting, but it's going to be very, 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 very exciting. And so you'll be able to query genomes, and we're seeing the first of those. The first models have just been released in the last 18 months using genomic information, and soon they'll be using protein information. And in the same way that those first computer programs were fair, but they're getting better fast, I see the same thing happening with these chat genomic information programs. But I see that all coming together on the AI front, where it can help you design, it can modify the sequence, and then it designs it. And so I see that all happening, back to your earlier question, in that 5-year time frame on the protein design side. So I think in the near term, people with expertise are putting together groups of tools. In the medium term, these tools are coming together and creating these, chat genomes. So it is the most exciting time, I'd say, in genomics in the last 25 years. Because for the last 25 years, anytime we had too much data, it collapsed on us. And for the first time, they have algorithms that instead of collapsing, get better with more data. And we never had that before.